What's up everyone, Mr. NoobTube Gamer. Today, for the very first time on this channel, I got some Splitgate gameplay for you guys. And of course, Splitgate is one of the hottest games going on right now. It's the game that everybody is talking about. And the game is so popular that the developers don't even have enough rooms in their servers to keep up with the demand. And there's been a lot of demand from you guys for me to make a video on Splitgate. The funny thing is, I actually have a lot of history with this game. I've been playing Splitgate since it first came out back in the summer of 2019. So for over 2 years I've been playing this game. Well, that's actually not true. I haven't been playing the game consistently for 2 years, but 2 years ago is when I started playing. But according to Steam, it's been a long time since I last played Splitgate, since July of 2020. So over a year since the last time I played Splitgate. And the reason why I stopped, it's just one of those things where I played the game consistently for over a year from 2019 to 2020. After a while, I kind of started to get bored with the game. I lost interest. I fell out of love with it. Not because it got worse or was no longer a good game in that year. It's just, you know, I felt like I experienced everything there was to Splitgate. So I kind of just drifted away from it and moved on to other games. It's something we've all experienced before, where we love a game so much, but we just kind of get tired of it. And I never really had an urge to come back to this game and play it again until I saw all these things coming out about how Splitgate is popping the fuck off and how the player count is at its all-time high. You had a peak of like 65,000 players, and right now you got like 45,000. So I thought that was insane, because the last time I played Splitgate over a year ago, you had a peak player count of like 400 people a day, which is very small. It's laughably small. Even Quake Champions had a higher player count than Splitgate back then. You know, so I see the player count is so high right now, I got curious. I'm like, how much has the game changed in the past year since I last played? Because for a player count to be that huge and to increase that much, it must have went through a lot of changes and be a completely different game than it was a year ago. That's at least what I was imagining in my head. Because I was thinking, how else is the game popping the fuck off like it is right now without getting some kind of overhaul? But no, it turns out it's the same exact game, pretty much, as it was last year. So I was a little bit surprised about that, because now all of a sudden, people are obsessed with this game, but it really hasn't fundamentally changed. It hasn't gotten better, it hasn't gotten worse since the last time that I played it back in 2020. I mean, the core gameplay is exactly the same, the entire game is the same. Maybe with a few added maps and a different logo, but it's the same game. But then it all started to make sense to me when I found out that Splitgate finally got its console release on PlayStation and Xbox, so that's what has been driving the player numbers up in recent weeks, is the release of the console versions with crossplay, which is also really huge, because crossplay tends to make a game even more popular than if it didn't have it. You can play with more people, you can play with more of your friends. Because I think that was always Splitgate's biggest problem. Not necessarily that it's not good enough to have a large player base, but that it just didn't have enough exposure. It's a small indie studio that made this game, 1047 Games. Those guys never had a lot of money to just throw out there and have a big marketing campaign to get the word out, you know what I mean? So what it came down to is people just didn't know this game even existed. Not that the game is bad or had a bad reputation. They definitely struggled to maintain the player base that they had accrued over time, though, because, you know, they are a small studio, they have limited funds, they can't just have a robust live service with all these updates and content drops, new maps. You know, they weren't able to do that consistently since they didn't have as many resources as the big AAA companies did. But I'm really happy for them. I really am happy for all the folks over at 1047 Games. I know it wasn't an easy journey to get to where they're at right now. It took a lot of hard work and dedication. I'm sure there were a lot of times where they had doubts that, you know, maybe this game doesn't have the chance to be successful, maybe it's not good enough. I'm sure there was a lot of self-doubt, but they persevered, and it paid off big for them. I'm really proud of them, I'm really happy for them, and they deserve all the success that they're having right now, definitely. And it really is one of those feel-good stories in the video game industry, of a small-time studio, the underdog, able to go against all the odds. You know, there were so many people over the years that said Splitgate has no chance of ever being successful, it's a dead game, it's nothing but a Halo ripoff, and very few people believe that Splitgate could actually be a big deal. Myself included, not gonna lie. I never imagined that Splitgate could ever become this popular, honestly. I always enjoyed the gameplay, and the whole portal mechanic I thought was brilliant. It adds so much depth and variety to the gameplay. It's incredible. It really is. But I didn't think that the game would ever be able to get to the level that it is at right now, especially since it's been stagnant for so long. It usually isn't a common thing where a game is dead for a while and then gets popular. There are very few exceptions, like Among Us, one of the most popular games in the world right now, but for 2 years, it was completely irrelevant. And Rainbow Six Siege, it took like over a year before the game actually started to become successful and had a lot of players. So there are exceptions to the rule, but in general, if a game isn't doing so well during the first year or so of its life cycle, that typically indicates that the game is not going to be a huge hit over time. But with Splitgate, it took a while. It took longer than most games that eventually made a turnaround, but they did it. 1047 Games did it. It'll be interesting to see if they'll be able to sustain that growth for a very long time, especially with the imminent release of Halo Infinite, which is a fairly similar game, very similar genre, it's a sci-fi shooter. And of course, the multiplayer of Infinite will be free to play. So it'll be interesting to see if Halo Infinite might stifle the growth of Splitgate and cause a decline in the player count over time. Because, you know, there are a lot of Halo Splitgate comparisons out there, and that might not be a good thing for Splitgate if Infinite knocks it out of the park. We'll see how things play out in the future, but for now, it's great. The epic comeback that Splitgate made after so many years of stagnation and decline, the game's finally in a good place, and that's awesome to see. But that's it for me. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think about Splitgate and the incredible growth that we've seen over the past few weeks? This game is blowing up, but how long do you guys think Splitgate's gonna last? Do you think it's gonna be popular 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or you think it's just gonna be a passing fad? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.